Welcome to Gold, Glory, and Propaganda, a podcast where we explore the intersection of sports and politics. I'm Fabiola, and today, we're diving into one of the most controversial Olympic Games in history, the 1936 Berlin Olympics, also known as the Nazi Olympics. These games were meant to showcase Nazi Germany's strength and racial ideology, but instead, they became a stage for defiance, resistance, and one of the most powerful moments in Olympic history. How did Hitler attempt to use sports as propaganda? And how did athletes like Jesse Owens challenge the narrative? Stay with me as we uncover the real story behind the 1936 Olympics. To understand the significance of the 1936 Olympics, we need to step back to the 1930s, a time of global tension and political unrest. Germany was still recovering from World War I, and after years of economic hardship and political instability, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party rose to power in 1933. Hitler's vision for Germany was clear: rebuild its military strength, unify the nation under his rule, and promote his twisted ideology of Aryan racial superiority. But there was one problem: Germany had a global reputation as a hostile, oppressive regime. What better way to fix that image than by hosting the world's biggest sporting event? The International Olympic Committee (IOC) had awarded Berlin the Games back in 1931, before Hitler's rise to power. But by 1933, many nations were growing uneasy about participating in an Olympics hosted by a government that openly persecuted Jewish people and other minority groups. The US and several European nations debated boycotting the Games. In the US, protests erupted, with activists arguing that participating would legitimize the Nazi regime. But the IOC and many political leaders, eager to keep sports separate from politics, allowed the Games to move forward. Meanwhile, Hitler saw the Olympics as a golden opportunity, a chance to deceive the world into believing that Nazi Germany was a peaceful, strong, and modern nation. He ordered the temporary removal of anti-Jewish propaganda in Berlin, including signs that read "Jews not wanted" in public spaces. The international press arrived in Germany and saw a polished, welcoming version of the country, one that masked its growing brutality. This was more than just an Olympics. It was a carefully orchestrated performance designed to manipulate global perception. When the Games finally began on August 1, 1936, Berlin was transformed into a spectacle. A brand new Olympic stadium, the Reichssportfeld, was built to hold 100,000 spectators. The Olympic torch relay, a tradition we still see today, was introduced for the first time. And in an era where television was still in its infancy, this became the first ever Olympics to be televised, reaching audiences across Germany. Everything was designed to project an image of strength, unity, and Aryan superiority. But despite the Nazis' careful planning, one athlete stole the show, and he wasn't the Aryan ideal Hitler envisioned. Enter Jesse Owens. Owens was an African-American track and field athlete from the United States, and in a direct challenge to Nazi ideology, he dominated the competition, winning for gold medals in the 100 meters, 200 meters, long jump, and 4x100-meter relay. Owens' victories were not just athletic achievements, they were a powerful rebuke of Hitler's racist beliefs. The sight of a black man standing atop the podium, celebrated by cheering crowds, humiliated the Nazi leadership. Some reports claim that Hitler refused to shake Owens' hand, though this remains debated. Regardless, the world saw Owens as a symbol of defiance and triumph over racial prejudice. But Owens wasn't the only story of discrimination at these games. While the world celebrated athletic excellence, Jewish athletes in Germany were being silenced and excluded. Take Gretel Bergmann, a talented Jewish high jumper. She was Germany's top contender until the Nazis removed her from the team just weeks before the competition. Officials claimed her performance wasn't strong enough, but the real reason was obvious: she was Jewish. Germany used these games to push a false narrative that they were an inclusive, welcoming country. And for many visitors, the deception worked. International newspapers praised the efficiency and grandeur of the Games, failing to see the carefully hidden cracks beneath the surface. But not everyone was fooled. Some nations saw through the Nazi charade. The Soviet Union refused to participate, calling the Games a propaganda tool for fascism. Others, like the United States, left with growing suspicions about Germany's true intentions. the cracks in Hitler's illusion were beginning to show. So, did the 1936 Olympics help or hurt Nazi Germany's image? In the short term, Hitler succeeded in using the games to impress foreign visitors. Many left Berlin convinced that Germany was modern and orderly. But in the long run, the games became a symbol of defiance. Jesse Owens' victory stood as a direct contradiction to Nazi racial ideology. And as World War II erupted just 3 years later, the world looked back at the Berlin Olympics as a missed warning sign, a moment when Nazi Germany could have been confronted, but wasn't. The impact of the 1936 Olympics didn't end there. They set the stage for future political tensions in sports. Fast forward to the 1980 and 1984 Olympics, where Cold War rivalries led to massive boycotts, first by the US against the Moscow Games, then by the Soviet Union against the Los Angeles Games. The Nazi Olympics remind us that sports are never just about competition. They are a powerful political tool, capable of shaping history. The 1936 Berlin Olympics were supposed to glorify Hitler's vision of Aryan superiority. Instead, they gave the world Jesse Owens, a black athlete who became a symbol of defiance and excellence. They exposed the Nazi regime's deceptive tactics, while also showing how sports can be used as both propaganda and resistance. So, what about today? How do we see politics influencing sports in the modern world? From Olympic protests to geopolitical boycotts, the lessons of 1936 are still relevant. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Gold, Glory, and Propaganda. If you want to learn more, I highly recommend checking out David Clay Large's book Nazi Games, or the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum's website for a deeper dive into this history. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share. And join me next time as we explore another moment where sports and politics collide. Until then, I'm Fabiola. Thanks for listening.